For Heart Month, we came to share a very personal story that happened not too long ago, back in 2023. But before I get started, what does these three people have in common? Anybody want to take a guess? Yes. They are all cardiac arrest survivors because they had CPR. And that's why I'm here. My son suffered from a cardiac arrest back in 2023 and required 90 minutes of CPR to survive. So one morning back in July 2023, he just woke up feeling unwell. Not able to describe what was wrong with him, but he knew he didn't feel right. So he pressed on, went to work. I went and did my errands, but I also came home and saw something unusual. I saw his car home at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I immediately, was alarmed. So I went in the house and I saw him in the bed, which was another red flag. So I go back into his room and I say, Kyle, what's wrong? He goes, I told you I don't feel well. So I'm like, well, what do you mean? You have to tell me something. So I pressed him for him to give me some sort of indication of what was bothering him. And he finally mentioned that he had a pressure in his chest. So that was my signal that he needed to be seen by someone in the medical profession. And once we got to Holy Name, they did the normal workup of, normal ER, which is this picture right here. They were trying to see what was wrong with him. They drew blood, checked his heart. Everything seemed normal except for one test that they took that indicated that he had inflammation of his heart. And because of that, they admitted him to a cardiac floor. So by the second day, which was this day right here, while I was about to leave, I was sitting next to him on his bed. I was about to get up and leave, and he asked me not to leave. And I sat back down, which I'm so grateful that he did. And 10 minutes later, his nurse came in with a big cart, had medication, saying that, your son is experiencing an arrhythmia, which means his heartbeat was irregular. We've called the doctor, but we have to start, giving him medication. So 10 minutes later, his doctor walked in, and immediately my son passed out. So Dr. Angeli, which is this guy right here, Dr. Angeli went over and roused him back awake. And my son just thought that he fell asleep, but that wasn't the case. You want to say how you were feeling, Kyle?
When during that time?
Yeah.
Well, that whole day I was real nauseous, so I couldn't eat anything, so I was just real tired. And when the doctor came in the room, he had me lay on my side, so I thought I just fell asleep, but then I just woke right back up. And it was a weird feeling.
Yeah. So after he woke up, thinking that he just fell asleep, he passed out again. But this time they could not wake him up. And it was just like on television shows, how the crash cart comes in. They ushered me out swiftly, and about 20 people, 20 medical professionals were in his room, all rotating, giving him CPR. You guys have practiced CPR. You know how labor intensive that is, so it's impossible for one person to give CPR for 90 minutes effectively. So these doctors were rotating for 90 minutes until they were able to stabilize him enough to transfer him to what they call the cath lab. And in the cath lab, they inserted a pump into his heart to help with his blood flow. So once they did that, he immediately began to stabilize. And after stabilizing, they then transferred him to Hackensack Medical Center, where they inserted, it's called an ECMO. This machine oxygenated his blood externally and put it back into his body. Because of this, they felt that his heart potentially could not recover. And Hackensack is not a transplant hospital, so they have an agreement with Columbia Presbyterian to take on these cases that they can't take care of in Hackensack. So Columbia came over to pick him up. So this is my son, literally almost a couple hours, 12, 13 hours in between. He's on life support. He's on a ventilator. He has, which means a machine is breathing for him. He has a machine oxygenating his blood, and he has a pump pumping his heart. So for all intents and purposes, my son was not alive. He was being sustained by machines, which was, devastating for me because we have no history of heart disease or cardiac incidents in our family. So this came out of left field. But I did not lose my faith. I prayed. My friends were supportive of me. This whole community literally was supportive of us. They asked, through people, what do we need? How can they help? They had, prayer vigils for my son, which was very, important for me. So I'm so grateful for that. So lo and behold, through the power of, higher power, my son began to recover. And these doctors right here, these are the team of doctors that cared for him in the ICU. They were in disbelief that he literally was, making the recovery that he was, considering what he had been through. 90 minutes of CPR, which is unheard of. But the doctors were determined not to let him die. When my son was removed off of the assist devices, the first thing that he said was that he wanted to have a celebration to thank everybody that prayed for him, that took care of his family, who supported me while he was sick. So in October, we had a heart party, and everyone wore red, and I gave out CPR Anywhere kits as party favors, which you guys will get as well because the American Heart Association donates kits for the entire class, so you guys can get little mini Annies and practice, but more importantly, share with your friends and family because you never know when you might need this life-saving skill to save someone's life. And fast forward to this year, has anyone been on Route 4 recently during the month of February and seen the billboard featuring me and my son? So this shows the commitment that Holy Name has made in sharing the importance of CPR and the magnitude of the story involving my son's life, of how they were intricate in saving his life through CPR. So it was pretty cool to drive down Route 4 and see yourself on a huge billboard. So this is what it looks like, in the car. This is Senator Cory Booker. He is a New Jersey senator. My son and I were invited to go down to Washington last year to advocate for a bipartisan bill. And bipartisan is is both Republican and Democrat. So it was a bill supported by both parties, access to AED and the HEART Act. And I'm happy to say that it was passed back in December. So that bill will ensure that you guys have people surrounded that are CPR educated. Schools will get funding for coaches, aides, staff to receive CPR education so that you guys will have people around you that in the event that someone gets sick, that you have people that know what they're doing. And lastly, we actually formed a foundation called Kyle's Strong Heart Foundation to do exactly what we're doing, go into our communities and surrounding communities to share our story and stress the importance of CPR education. So we've been to Inglewood and Teaneck and plan to, go wherever we're needed because I feel that my son's story is so powerful because he wasn't sick, he isn't old, he doesn't have any pre-existing heart conditions, but this did happen to him. So it can happen to anyone. My desire is for Hackensack and the surrounding communities to understand the importance of CPR. And because my son's life was saved by CPR, I feel that it is my responsibility to spread this important message whenever and wherever I can.
I think everybody should become CPR certified because it's an important skill to have, and you never know when you can use it, especially on people you care about, strangers, your friends, family, stuff like that. It's important, even if you're young like me, to listen to your body because you never know what it could be trying to tell you if you're just trying to shrug it off. Everything is important.